Welcome back to Keep It Real Boxing. This is Cypherbox. So, Al Haymon and his PBC brand have struck another deal, a new deal with Fox Sports, as reported by The Ring magazine earlier on this week. And it says, PBC and Fox have finalised a long-term deal for fights to appear on both Fox and FS1, with an annual boxing budget that eclipses $60 million. Multiple sources told The Ring. The deal, which will be announced Tuesday, will kick off in December. The agreement calls for 10 championship level fights on Fox, with at least another 12 shows on FS1. That's to be added to Showtime's existing budget, also estimated at over $60 million. Meanwhile, Eddie Hearn, who runs UK-based promotional company Matchroom and recently announced a wide sweeping deal with online streaming service Dazn, is estimated to have an annual budget of $125 million. The article also reads, it was only last week that Showtime announced a new 3-year deal with PBC, Al Haymon's stable of fighters, which totals over 160. Jesus, man. Do you know what? I didn't realise I knew he had a lot of fighters under him, but 160 fighters. Okay. It's not just the biggest group of fighters in the sport, but the best, with 2 boxers on the Ring's pound for pound list and at least 20 at the elite level of the sport. Showtime announced plans for expanded coverage in 2019 and beyond, including monthly shows. A major criticism of PBC has long been the inactivity of some of its biggest fighters, but that should no longer be an issue. Between Showtime and Fox, there figures to be around 20 top flight telecasts involving A-level fighters. A trickier problem will be how each network shares the best talent. Okay, so what do I think about this? I think it's brilliant. Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a UK boxing fan, right? So it doesn't really affect me unless I'm streaming it, illegally. But if you're living out the US, you're a US boxing fan, US-based boxing fan, this is great news for you. Like, seriously, like, you've got so many options at the moment in terms of boxing. So you've got ESPN and their $5 app. Okay, you've got Eddie Hearn launching Dazn, which will be showing the World Boxing Series, the next season of the World Boxing Series. Not only that, Eddie Hearn's trying to obviously get his Matchroom USA cards out there and build his stable of fighters in the US to broadcast in the US and obviously here in the UK at the same time on Dazn, and that's $10 a month. But obviously we'll wait to see how that grows and what kind of fighters he can get his hands on. But he's just recently acquired Tevin Farmer, who's a world champion, and obviously the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk. So he seems to get in there slowly but surely. But his biggest problem is obviously he's trying to get hold of Al Haymon fighters. And I'll talk about that in a minute, actually. I don't want to jump the gun. You've still got HBO, who probably aren't as big of a player as they used to be with Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions, but they're still there providing you with boxing, yeah? And not only that, don't forget Kathy Duva as well, with main events. That she shows, I think, a lot of her fights on HBO as well, if I'm correct. Like Kovalev and, Bivol, etc. And then you've got now this new deal with Al Haymon. The budget he's getting, $60 million off of Fox, more than $60 million off Showtime, which kind of, as you heard me say, it eclipses the annual budget that Eddie Hearn has. And let's not forget, Eddie Hearn has a 2-year contract with Dazn. I think a probationary contract that he's got 2 years to really get Dazn off the ground. And if he's not successful, then obviously Dazn could pull out with him and go look for another promoter. So, you've got loads of options out in the US as well. And at the moment, I think it's great. Competition is great, right? So, Eddie Hearn jumping into the US market has made other promoters, I suppose, step up their game to a degree. It would appear that way. I could be wrong. Al Haymon could have had this in the works before the Dazn deal was, before it was announced. But all I know, it feels like to me that this is a reaction to Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing and Dazn entering into the US boxing market. and it's great to see. You know, we're going to see more fights. I'm sure, I hope, you know, we're going to get those coverages of those fights here in the UK as well, because, you know, lately the Showtime fights, some of the Showtime fights haven't been shown here. So Mikey Garcia versus Robert Easton. I can't remember what the other one was. It was Jermell Charlo versus, I think, Austin Trout. That wasn't shown out here in the UK, and I kind of wonder, well, Sky usually picks up those sort of fights, and I was wondering, is that to do with the whole Dazn deal and all that sort of stuff, that they're not doing that? And Showtime, you know, it seems like there's a bit of a beef between Sky and Showtime and Matchroom and Showtime, etc., and with all the Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, and the Dazn deal, all that kind of stuff. But for you guys out in the US, I think it's fantastic. I think it's great for the sport. I think it grows the sport. Competition is good. Competition in business is good, because you know what? It makes each individual who's involved in the sport, from a promotional and broadcasting point of view, up their game. Yeah, they're all looking to beat one another and give the best possible fights, provide the best possible fights and shows to you, the consumer, who is the boxing fan, of course. So as boxing fans, I think you guys win, you know, out there in the US. I know a lot. Listen, first of all, I want to say this. I don't understand why Al Haymon gets so much hate out in the US. I still don't understand it. Yeah. Now, if I'm correct, when he first launched PBC, what he was doing from Fox Sports and other channels and stuff like that was he was buying airtime and then putting his fights on during those slots, from what I understand. This isn't the case from what I understand this time. This time he's actually been giving a budget, etc. and stuff like that. It's an actual deal. So it's completely different from how he originally started out, and it looks like he's going to provide even more than he has done in the past. Like I said, I don't see what the problem is with Al Haymon and the PBC brand. I've always enjoyed their fights. You know, I've never seen anything wrong with their fights, but people are so critical of it. I still don't get it. You know, I don't understand where the hate. I've said this before, if you're a boxing fan, why would you hate on it? It's free boxing on free TV. Now, from what I understand, last night I was on my boy T-Dub and his channel, What's Blazing in Sports. I was in his live chat, talking to the chat, and talking to him as well, of course. And I asked him about, you know, this PBC deal, and he said that it's great because if you have the basic cable package out in the US, I believe you get Fox, which means it's not costing you, it's literally costing you nothing, you know, and you can get the top level elite fights. So I don't know what the complaints are. I don't understand why people hate Al Haymon. I just don't get it. I don't think I'll ever understand that. But it's the same on the other side as well. There's a lot of people who are looking at Eddie Hearn and Dazn and wanting Dazn to fail and crash and burn. Again, I don't understand that, because end of the day, you know, and I get that's coming from the whole situation with Wilder and Joshua. And don't forget, I've been very critical of Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua, Matchroom Boxing, Barry Hearn, regarding the whole AJ Wilder thing. I've been calling them out on all their bullshit. You know that. Okay? But I honestly believe that the Dazn deal, the idea of Dazn, is a good idea. You know, so because it helps grow the sport. Just like this deal from Al Haymon is going to help grow the sport, sustain the sport. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully bring a new fan base, because it's being aired for free. Now, from what I understand, you know, also I'm guessing some of these fights will probably be on Showtime anyway. Will probably be pay-per-view as well. And from what I understand, Eddie Hearn's not doing any pay-per-view on DAZN. So, wondering who's going to financially benefit better from this. It'll be interesting to see. But look, I think it's a great deal. And like I said, don't forget, you got Bob Arum and ESPN and their $5 app as well, with the likes of, you know, Lomachenko and Terence Crawford, who signed a new 3-year deal, from what I understand, with Bob Arum and ESPN. So again, even you know, you got even greater news there. Another option for you. But not only that, you've got HBO still there, who aren't probably as big of a player as they used to be, in my opinion. But they still show some great fights. You know, you got Canelo Triple G coming up. We've had Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev in the past. You know, Sergey Kovalev main events. You know, Kathy Dufa, Dmitry Bivol, and all those sort of guys on there. You know, who else is there? You got obviously Oscar De La Hoya. who works with HBO as well. So like I said, you've got loads of options out in the US at the moment, and I personally think it's great. I mean, I don't know what, obviously, you know, I don't know what the cost is it will be to you guys, so let's work that out. So $5 a month for ESPN, $10 a month for Dazn, that's 15 right there. I don't know what your subscription costs are to your basic cable packages out there, but I can't see it being too much, of course. So, I don't know, what, $30, $40 a month, you're getting great coverage, I would assume. I could be wrong. You guys can correct me, of course, what your basic cable package is like out there. But are you getting value for money? Yeah. And a lot of people are going to say, well, DAZN's not really showing anything at the moment. But they do have the World Boxing Super Series. Don't forget that coming up. You know, and I think they've just bought the rights to the super middleweight final between George Groves and Callum Smith, which is happening out, is it in Dubai or Saudi Arabia or somewhere like that? So, again, you know what I mean? You've got some great options, in my opinion, in terms of this deal, you know, and I think, you know, shout out to Al Haymon, you know, I don't see where all the hate comes from. I don't understand it. I think he's a really good businessman. He really promotes and grows the boxing business, you know, well out in America. So I've never understood it, and he puts great fights on, in my opinion. So, you know, people can say what they want. I know most of those negative comments are full of hate, you know, or some sort of form of bias, but you're not going to get that from me. And it's just like, I've been critical of Eddie Hearn with that whole AJ Wilder things, but I'm not going to shoot him down for his attempt to bring boxing to the US through the DAZN app. Why? It grows the sport. It helps the sport. If you're a real boxing fan, you shouldn't want to see this. You know, you shouldn't want to see these people fail. You want to see them probably succeed to a degree, because you want to see the sport grow. And if the sport grows, that means there's more money in the sport. If there's more money in the sport, that means the fighters are getting paid well. You know, why wouldn't you want to see a fighter get paid well who puts their life on the line, their health on the line for your entertainment? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So I don't understand, like I said, I don't think I'll ever understand the people who are hating on these ideas and stuff like that. Not only that, it's interesting though, I touched on it earlier on, but I said I'll leave it till later on. Don't forget that Eddie Hearn's trying to acquire a lot of the PBC fighters, you know, and, you know, like Gervonta Davis recently, and Mayweather Promotions turned it down, etc. and stuff like that, and he's attempted with Jermall, Charlo, Adrian Broner and all that sort of stuff. They've all turned it down. And this is gonna make it a lot more difficult for Eddie Hearn to get those fighters, because now he's really gonna have to, you know, shell out some money. He's really gonna have to pay out some money to get those fighters, because Al Haymon, his fighters are very loyal to him because he's always looked after them. Yeah, he's never ill-treated them or treated them badly or robbed them of their money or anything like that. Yeah, and he's always looked out for his fighters. Yeah, he's always made sure they're well paid and well looked after. Okay, and it's going to be really hard for Eddie Hearn now to try and take those fighters away from Al Haymon. It really is, because he's now got even more money to play with and pay those fighters and give them more fights throughout the year. Keep them, you know, active. Maybe fighting 2 or 3 times a year. Which, as you said from you saw from the article, that was one of the criticisms of PBC top fighters, is that they weren't active enough. Well, now maybe they will be made more active, because 1, the money's there, and 2, they've got to keep up with Eddie Hearn and his model. So, you know, this makes it even more difficult for Eddie Hearn, in my opinion, to get those fighters. And like I said, those fighters are very loyal to Al Haymon, and as long as he's paying them well as well on top of that, and still looking after them like he's always done, it's going to be very, very hard for him to walk away from them. I think Errol Spence Jr. recently, in the last couple of weeks, put a tweet out that he said something about Al Haymon being an angel in this sport of boxing, in this dirty sport of boxing. So, you know what I mean? When fighters are making, and Adrian Broner was on social media, you know, screaming out and shouting out that Al Haymon's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, you know, when it comes to promoters / managers. So, do you see what I'm trying to say? It's going to make it really tough for Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn's really going to have to fork out some cash. And remember, Eddie Hearn's trying to get hold of Mikey Garcia as well. Let's not forget that he's made an offer to Mikey Garcia. And Mikey Garcia at this time has been working with Showtime Sports, and I believe with PBC and stuff like that, and Al Haymon. So Al Haymon may actually trump and offer Mikey Garcia a better deal than Eddie Hearn, because remember, Mikey Garcia wants to fight in Errol Spence Jr., he says, by the end of this year. He's interested in that fight a lot. That's the fight he wants if he can't get the Lomachenko fight, which you know, I'm not going to get into the politics of everything, but that's what he desires. So if Al Haymon pays him a lot of money and can pay him a little bit more or equal what Eddie Hearn's already putting on the table, then Mikey Garcia could easily sign up with Al Haymon and this new deal, which again puts another dent in Eddie Hearn's Dazn venture. But we'll have to see how it all works out. You know, be interested to see what Eddie Hearn's move's going to be, what Bob Arum's move's going to be, whether HBO are going to actually decide to increase their budget and step up their game as well. You know, I think it's great. I think it's great for you US boxing fans out there. You're given plenty of options, you know, and you know it's great for the sport as a whole because it, you know, it grows the sport. That's just my opinion on it. Let me know what you think. As always, guys, like, share and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.